Hello everybody, my name is Fisheater Gaming, and today I'm showing you this amazing Portal 2 mod that trades out the standard polygon for something a bit more explosive. The rocket launcher mod for Portal 2 was made by none other than Portal Runner, who is well known in the community for making lots of quality mods for the game. In this video, I tried it out and I'm giving you the highlights from each chamber. Now, one thing I like about this mod is how it makes you think outside the box in ways you normally wouldn't expect. And there's lots of launching yourself. Now, some of the solutions I came up with just didn't involve shooting a lot of rockets at a cube until it worked. But overall, I think I had a great time with this mod. Now, first of all, I skipped most of the intro chambers and went right after when GLaDOS gives you the portal gun. One thing I should mention is how some chambers are not possible. Usually a chamber with lasers requires 2 portals to be placed, but there are some exceptions to this. You've already seen me go through the first 2 chambers of this chapter, which both of them were fairly simple and straightforward, but the difficulty ramps up quickly. This next chamber was the first one to take a bit of time. Saving is absolutely crucial for challenges like these, especially when so many things can go wrong. For example, that simple rocket jump you saw me do took 14 attempts, and it took plenty more to get this cube across too. This next trick, which was to get the cube across this gap, was probably the trick that took the longest in this chamber. There was a ton of trial and error to get it across. But then, suddenly somehow, I got the cube to go Mach 10 speeds all the way to the exit, and then it was as simple as putting the cube on the button to finish the chamber. Overall, I think that chamber was a good mix of challenge and reward. This next chamber was solved completely normally, so there's nothing to talk about here. I just had to get the cube to the exit like normal. Also, don't judge my bad b-hops. After that chamber, I was just trying to get more used to how the rocket shot you and the angle that you shot down at. The toughest tricks in this challenge were always the big jumps, which took quite a bit of attempts to land right if I had to land in a small area. Personally though, I felt as though the big jumps were always the most rewarding. After this trash cleared out, I would have to go over to where the cube is and make a jump across the gap for my next trick. Another possible way to beat this chamber may have been to get the cube and hit it while it was in the air, but that might have complicated things a little bit. Now I had to get to the cube, which was straightforward, with a simple rocket jump. Now the tricky part's coming up. But first I gotta get rid of all this trash, because, yeah, I can't work when it's all dirty. It took almost 60 attempts
to get this cube across the gap.
But with enough luck and enough spamming the rockets, I eventually got the cube to go all the way across the gap and onto the other side. After I got the cube over there, I had to go over there myself. Ooh, just missed it. This chamber was taking a very long time so far. Did I mention how easy it is to hit yourself with a rocket? Luckily, it didn't take too long to get the cube up here. Then, I just had one more trick and I beat the chamber. I was not expecting the cube to go like that, and me to go back, but it ended up working out in the end. And just like that, I finished another chamber. Also by now, I was getting pretty used to moving around with the rockets. Now here comes the return of the companion cube from my last video. Ah, fizzled it. In retrospect, I think it may have been easier to just blast myself up out of this trench. Ooh, baby, that was a lucky cube hit. Now it was pretty simple. I just had to get from down there to up here, which did not take too long. Honestly, I have nothing to say about this chamber really, except that it was way easier than the last one. I let the intrusive thoughts win. Just for kicks and giggles, I went and grabbed the cube, which also proved to be pretty easy. Then, as usual, my dreams were thwarted by the world. How unnecessarily sad that was. After carefully observing this chamber, I decided to skip it because it was clearly impossible. This was a little interesting, so I had to check it out. And who needs the story anyway? It was also pretty fun to wall jump with the rockets as well. Then, after very careful consideration with this laser and cube, I decided this test was also impossible. On to the next chamber we go. After some quite abhorrent bee hopping, I got into the next chamber, which also seemed pretty simple. All I had to do was get the cube and put it at the button at the end, which is a task my rocket launcher and I would find all too easy. So, a quite useful thing that you can do with this rocket launcher and allow as many of the test chambers to be possible is it's very easy to scale large walls and other structures with it. A useful ability I learned from this chamber is the technique where you can grab the cube as you launch off the ground to scale up large walls. This will prove to be very useful in later chambers. Anyway, that was that chamber done, and on to the next one. Ooh, yuck. Yeah, I think this one's impossible too. Without the light bridge, there aren't any ledges in there I can't really rocket on. And even if there was, it would be very difficult, so I decided to skip this one too. At this point, I'm starting to get the hang of shooting the rockets below me to traverse chambers more quickly, which is a useful skill and it will come in handy later. Ooh, no, don't. I'm getting PTSD from this chamber just looking at the footage. This chamber was pretty difficult because not only did I have to get the cube in mid-air, but I also had to shoot myself across mid-air too, and then the cube again, which proved to be very difficult altogether. Luckily, I could save in between, but that didn't make it very much easier in the end. Eventually, I found a setup that allowed me to shoot across this gap more consistently and almost hit every time. Oh my goodness, and let me tell you, when I made it across that gap, I was flabbergasted because it took so many attempts, and that wasn't even the hardest part. So next, I had to move this cube over to the right a little bit so I could shoot it across this gap and into this little box. This was the last and the hardest part of this chamber. I think I put almost an hour of attempts into this. Finally getting that cube across the gap was probably the most rewarding thing I've ever felt in my entire life. I'm pretty sure I cried tears of joy at the end. As you can see, I was frozen with disbelief for a little bit. But after I came back to my senses, that was another chamber done. Next, it was time for a more fun chamber, which was more of what I wanted after that one. After rocketing myself up those stairs, I was met with turrets, and I obliterated them with my rocket launcher. turret after turret, I was a madman with a rocket launcher. A murderer. This chamber was easy because I just had to shoot rockets at it, and that was it. Overall, that was a pretty fun chamber. Then I was on to the next one. Yeah, so it was another laser level, which, as we previously stated, are normally impossible. And I don't know the solution to this one, so I'm gonna skip it as well. Another fun one. It's always the ones with the turrets that are good. Mostly because you can just blow them up and instead of doing it regularly. Honestly, these chambers might be getting too easy. I probably am gonna regret saying that though. Ooh yeah, baby. Keep feeding me these turret test chambers and I will be a happy man. Like I said, you just shoot the rockets at them and it's literally done. Like, that's all you gotta do. Just gotta move this cube around and yeah, that's actually about it. Another test chamber done. I was starting to have a lot of fun now with all this rocket movement. Also, this next test chamber was made way easier because I could just rocket up and grab the cube, and that was it. Boom, now I'm racking up these test chambers. The rocket launcher makes everything better. To finish this one, I had to hit this epic sniper shot on this turret back there. Ooh, he done. Here's the first trick in a while. So basically, after I went up here, I had to, when the cubes collided mid-air, all I had to do was explode them off the wall and make them onto the ground without them falling into the water. Which sounds pretty simple at first, but it actually took quite a few attempts. Ooh, spinny cubes. After that debauchery was finished, it was very straightforward to finish the rest of this chamber. Which was just me orienting these cubes for the finish. On to the next test chamber. I don't care, Wheatley. I'm just trying to play the game with rockets. Anyway, here's a toughie. Kind of. The more I look at it, the more I realize I think I made it tough for myself. Firstly, these turrets were pretty easy to take care of. Then, it was just a matter of getting these cubes to redirect to the laser. Rocket jumping up here with the cube wasn't difficult because of what I previously learned. After redirecting the laser over here, I saw he had a cube over there then. These large chambers are a little bit of fun to rocket around, especially once you get used to the movement. Getting these cubes up in steps is also a little bit easier too. So it was one more cube and then I was done. Which was what I thought, until I realized that I totally could have just rocketed it up to the end instead of making this platform go up, but you know. So as a little bit of a fun thing, I wanted to fizzle the cube in the last part, but I couldn't put the cube up there. There was like an invisible wall or something, which is a little bit funky, a little bit strange, and I'm not sure why. So I just decided to fizzle the turret instead. But after that, that was another chamber done. I'm pretty proud of that one. Now, why don't you look at this? It's the funny chamber. Anyway, it was pretty easy. I just did the zero portal trick. Yeah, whatever. Come. It was pretty fun though. That might have been the first time I've ever pulled that trick off. I know I've seen it in a lot of videos, so. Okay, so this video is getting a little bit long, so I think I'm gonna cut it off here, and there will be a part 2, and probably a part 3, depending on how long, how many chambers there are. I know how many chambers there are. Just watch the part 2. It's good stuff. Trust me. I hope you enjoyed this part. Like and subscribe for more content, and I'll see you later.